On the northeastern corner of the Caribbean island chain sits the gem of the West Indies, Santa Maria de la Antigua. Antigua, renowned for its sun, sea and sand. It has also become famously known as the Stonehenge of the Caribbean. Situated between the villages of Jennings, Ebenezer, and Bendel's stands Greencastle Hill, 596 feet of volcanic rocks and lemongrass. These volcanic rocks, which are too numerous to tally, naturally protrude out of the hill and are arranged to correspond to the astronomical clock, the solstices, the equinoxes, and the movements of the stars. This has been confirmed by Dr. Maura Imbert, an astroarchaeologist who conducted a study of several keystones on Greencastle Hill. I have visited Stonehenge in England and have seen for myself the methods utilized by the government and people of that nation to incorporate Stonehenge as a part of its economical development through tourism. Infrastructure has been built around the monument, parking lot, museum, and even a restaurant. And of course, thousands flock to the site during the solstices and equinoxes, and millions visit each year. If preserved, developed, and marketed properly, Greencastle Hill, the Stonehenge of the Caribbean, could attract millions as well, in numbers of persons as well as in dollars and pounds. It will provide employment as well as career opportunities for Antiguans, and it would add to the value and appreciation of Antigua internationally. Greencastle Hill has been used for decades as a site for the creation of aggregates and building materials. As it is already a national park, we as a nation should seriously consider Greencastle Hill and preserve it and utilize it, for it is our national treasure and a sacred hill. The nations and nature will applaud us for such actions. I thank you.
So who is this?
This is King Akhenaten, aka Amenhotep IV. He was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh of the 18th dynasty who ruled for 17 years and disappeared perhaps in 1336 BC or 1334 BC.
Do give thanks to the life giver and keeper of life. Blessed love to each and every one. I do welcome you to the shock of the hour. Of course, you're in the tiger's nest. Glorified Kadamawe Haile Selassie I. Honorable Priest Isaac here with you for another wonderful program. And this evening we're going to be speaking on what may seem to be a ticklish and maybe provocative subject. We want to know, is it natural for a woman to have multiple male partners? Now, of course, most may say, what? What type of subject is that? Oh, come on, priest, where you going with that one there? Now, remember, this is not the gossip corner. This is not let's talk about somebody's business. This is the shock of the hour. This is the mystic vibration. So even if you're shocked for the hour, just be sure that the vibration must be mystic. I mean, hello? Yeah, and you're definitely in the tiger's nest. Yeah, just give thanks, So definitely it's going to be an interesting subject because I'm going to be looking at it from a particular angle, a specific angle really, And when we say multiple partners now, it is definitely nothing on a, what do you want to call, a sick level as such, not at all. In fact, many of us would have come up in a home and maybe still in a home where you live with your mother and maybe your father, but yet still you may have a brother or sister that is from another father. Or you live with your mother, your siblings, and a stepfather, which may be the father of one or two of your brothers or sisters. And then there may be a case where there is no father, and it's just the mother alone, but yet still you share the womb with your sister or you share the womb with your brother, but the sperm donor as such is different in every case. And we know of these cases. It is reality. It exists. Now, of course, you look on society and our standard for society in general, and this is not something I think anyone would just plan to go through or would be very happy to live a life like that, but these things happen. And a woman is in a relationship with a man and they may get married and something happens and they break up, as they say, and then another man comes along. She already had a child from this one, now she's going to have a child for this second one. And then something happens there, another one comes along. Then she has a third child or 3 or 4 children in general now, and for 3 different brothers, and that is well known. That is just like the reality of the world and how it is now. So what I'm saying is that we can look at this from the level of psychology and the system, and of course family structure and education. We could bring in the effects and after effects of slavery, and there's so many angles you could take this, I'm telling you, and look at it. But remember what I said, we are asking. We're not saying why is it or how could we stop it. The question I wanted to know, is it natural? I'm going to show you where I'm going with this. Now remember, like I think about a year ago, we did a program entitled 7 Women to 1 Man. We have that in the archives and you can go on YouTube and find that. 7 Women to 1 Man. 2 parts. Part 1 and part 2. And I think anyone that needs a spiritual understanding of that whole subject area, they should go and watch those videos. If you have never watched those videos, I am telling you that you should go and watch those videos. 7 Women to 1 Man. That's part 1 and part 2 right there on the YouTube. Just go to my YouTube channel and you could find them. Now, that conversation, it would go down easy with some, both man and woman. Some, both man and woman. But if you were going to speak about 7 man to 1 woman, that would hardly go down good with anybody at all, So I would ask the question now, so where does the difference lie? Because we are the ones that preach that the male and the female are equal, isn't it so? All right. But yet still, when you speak about one man having 7 women, and let me be clear here, when we did the episode 7 women to 1 man, it was not left on that base level at all. So I'm encouraging you to go and listen it properly. It's nothing like what you even nearly think if you have not heard it already. And if you heard it already, you should go and listen to it again. But on the base level that we like to stay at, if a man could have 7 women, scripture we speaking, not gossip and alley talk. We're talking Bible here. The book of Isaiah, chapter 3 and chapter 4. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of 1 man. Again, we broke it down from chapter 3 when it speaks of how the daughters of Zion have totally gone astray from the way they walk, talk, dress, eat. They're stinking in the sight or in the presence of the Most High. That's what the book of Isaiah was saying. But yet still, because of their torment and the situation that they were in, and remember all the great men of battle and war and all the king's horses and all the king's men have gone down in the battle. There was no real man really around. But then Isaiah chapter 4 begins by showing you, but in that day, 7 women shall take hold of 1 man, and they shall tell the man, don't worry. You don't have to feed us. You don't have to build us no house. You don't have to clothe us. We don't need nothing from you. Just let us be called by your name to take away our reproach. And according to Isaiah, that was something that delighted the Lord. And the reproach of the daughters of Zion was taken away, because 7 of them held the whole of 1 man, according to the book of Isaiah. And to show you that is way above the ground level. Because if you have that discussion with anyone, even if they agree with a system like that, even if it's a serious God, that would tell you, yeah man, that's how we used to do it in ancient Africa, and King David had how many, and Solomon had how many, whatever excuse they bring up to show that they agree with this stuff. I'm showing you that they will still tell you, but the man has to be in a position to make sure that he can economically and psychologically provide for each and every wife. So if he can't handle 2, don't take 2. If you can't handle 3, stay at 2. And if you can't handle 7, stay at 5 and all of that. But that's not what the scripture of Isaiah is saying at all. The woman them say, we don't need nothing from you. In fact, we will, we will give you what you want. All we want is to be called by your name. Judgment. To take away our reproach. Come on, go and listen it, man. 7 women shall take hold of 1 man. I can't, like the spirit is getting in me to go into that. I can't go into that. Yeah, let's stay on topic now. But no, we ain't talking about 7 women and 1 man. We're talking about 7 men and 1 woman. You see what I'm saying here? That's not something that people really, check on. Okay. Now, the reason why I asked it is because I want to present something to you here. This is taken from a documentary entitled Bijago or Bijago, the different pronunciation, islands, documentary, discovery, history, African Queen. And in this documentary, it's going to be speaking of the Bijago Islands, or some say Bijago Islands, off the coast of Guinea-Bissau. And these people here, these are some of the people that exist on this planet that has not really been affected by the Western civilization. They're still there. And they have a high percentage of their culture still intact, the Bijago people or Bijago people. And one aspect of their culture has to do directly with the woman and her state when it comes to marital affairs. These are black people, eh? They're known for their rice cultivation, they're known for their palm oil, harvesting the palm itself, the palm oil, and making palm wine. You know, they have a certain strict culture where some of the brothers would go into the forest for 7 years, and when they come back, they're known as, you know, like a spiritual guru, and these are the ones that would attend to certain spiritual acts and rites that happen in the community. So this is one of our ancient African traditions. You know, I always like to say, people would meet me and say, boy, you remind me of the Maasai, and I would believe that there's some, you know, Maasai in I, you know, and other things too. And some people do preach the philosophy that once you can connect yourself to your roots in Africa, that should be the tradition that you keep up. And I tend to disagree, yeah, for sure. Because even if I'm a Maasai, even if I was 100% Maasai, I'm not drinking any cow blood, and I'm not drinking any cow milk. None of the two. And you know, no matter how Maasai I am, and I'm not piercing anything, and if I was a woman, I wouldn't put no copper plate in my lips neither, no matter how Maasai or the Maori tribes or whatever tribe, Mosi tribes, no matter who I am, it is King Emmanuel order that I would adhere to. But yet still you have a certain level of respect for the ancient African tradition. So this is why we respect and love and admire our ancient African tradition. And this tradition here now of the Bijago people is an interesting tradition wherein the woman is the one that would, well, as they say, build a house and design it, and even, you know, get the straw and everything for the roof, the thatch for the roof. And then she is the one that would invite the husband in. She would literally scope out her husband. She chooses the husband then. The woman chooses the husband. And it may sound interesting, you know, or strange, but it's interesting that even in the story of the Queen of Sheba, it is the queen that went looking for the king. And she now choose the husband, yeah. But now it's more than that. After a specific time, when the husband himself has to become initiated into another level, she would put him away and get another husband. And they would have a child or children as well. And then he will pass on and another one will come in. And this is not by mistake. This is well planned out, you know. This is how the tradition goes. Now, it's not through anger. Nobody vexed with no one. It's understood that this is what's going to happen. And it works like clockwork. Now, that's interesting. In fact, let me just run a bit of this documentary so you could hear it specifically from that level, and we will continue the discussion on this.
Trees are the pillars of Bijago society. The Bijagos always build their villages in the shade of the kapok trees away from the beaches. They plant their rice paddies beneath the palm trees. They build their houses from leaves and branches. They live in these temporary dwellings while they cultivate their crops on the sacred islands. If you look carefully, you'll notice a jungle gym for the children, a doghouse, and in the crown of the palm trees, bottles of palm sap. They'll ferment this sap to make palm wine that the men get together to drink in a special men's lodge set up outside the village. This is the drinking horn for the wine. These These woven leaves are like signposts in the forest, and if you can't read them, you could very well get into trouble. As for the social structure, it is very tightly organized. Every member has their exact position, and it's been like that since the dawn of time.
C'est la maison qui appartient à la femme.
In a Bijago family, the house belongs to the woman, and she even designs her own house. With the help of her friends, and the woman goes and gathers the straw for the roof.
Chercher la paille pour couvrir la maison. Ici, dans les Bijagos,
Here in the Bijagos, it's the woman who chooses her
dans une
husband.
famille, il y a au moins
There are 7 to 10 children in a family, so the father changes.
Donc,
He moves on, but the children stay with a mother.
il tourne. Mais les enfants restent avec la maman. Bon, la séparation en fonction de ça.
The separation takes place when the man is initiated.
Il va à l'initiation. Déjà, il va.
Everyone knows he's going to leave his wife.
Déjà, c'est programmé.
That's how it's done.
Que l'année prochaine, vous allez.
When they tell the man, next year, you go off for the initiation, the woman already has another husband in view for when the man enters the initiation period. They have to leave the village.
Droit à rester au village même.
They go live in the forest for about 7 months, and during that time, they're not allowed to address women directly.
Ils n'ont pas droit à parler aux femmes directement.
Once permission has been granted, we can ask all the questions we want.
Now that's interesting. Now, this is what I'm saying. You heard it for yourself. And that 7-month period is different than the 7-year period I was speaking of earlier. So there is the tradition. At a certain time in their life, the woman builds her house and she chooses. And then after she has made the choice of her husband, they're together for a specific time. They begin to raise a family. And then when it's time for his initiation, he has to move on. And she, according to the narrator there, has already in scope someone else who would come in, if you want to say take his place, continue what he started, and he also would have to go. And you would hear him stressing, everybody knows this. This is just how the tradition has been going from the dawn of time. All right. Now what I'm saying, you see your genetic memory bank, it's a very interesting thing. Because they cut the tongue out of our mothers so that our mothers would not be able to transfer to us our ancient African language. They try their best to cut away our traditions, our rights, our song and our dance. But you see the genetic memory bank, it is extremely powerful. When I hear the African tongue, I could speak as an individual that was born in the island of Antigua. Many times when I hear the West African tongue and even the Amharic, the East African tongue, I hear spatter shots of the dialect that we speak, the patois that we speak, the Creole that we speak then, the Rabak that we speak, the Rabak that I talk. It's just like you said, that I talk. Now you hear that I talk, that is just dialect for saying that we speak, that I talk. But you now, if your ears were open enough and you listen to the ancient African languages, different ones, you would hear many of the different phrases that we use in dialect that you get from the Antiguan dialect and the Jamaican dialect, these two specifically. You would hear all of that connection as if it was retained in us, in our memory bank. Remember, this is just yesterday's news. You know? This is not no Bible story. This is last week event when we were robbed and plucked from off of our mother's breasts. Now for sure, I'm not making no excuse for our behavior as a people. But could it be that this same action that we see here, because these people have been doing this for so long, many of us, this is Guinea-Bissau, you know, this is West Africa, and these islands are off the coast of West Africa. I mean, this is as close to the west as you could really get from Africa. Islands in the sea, not even the mainland, you know, islands in the sea. Africa. So there's a close proximity between us and these same people in Guinea-Bissau. So obviously some of us over here are directly related to these same people here, one way or the other. And they're not the only people. This is just a spot on the wall of Africa. So they're not the only ones, I'm sure, that carries on this tradition. You've heard of this many times from many different teachers, and some of our great scholars have spoken about other people in different parts of Africa that carry out a tradition like that, a matriarch tradition where the woman would literally have more than one husband at the same time too. This is not even at the same time, but they have traditions where the woman would have more than one husband at the same time. And although that is not something that I am quick to, ratify, I know for sure it's nothing like what it would be today. We may be sitting down saying like, no, wow, that's disgusting. You see, it becomes disgusting because of us living in Sodom and Gomorrah. And Sodom and Gomorrah, because it's sex, and so you're thinking about when you think of this, when the tradition here is of more a spiritual aspect than a lustly aspect. So because we live in Lust City, because we live in orgy town, because we live in the Playboy mansion, we see everything that has to do with marriage and relationship and anything ancient that comes along in this fashion as being disgusting and being sick and being queer. And I would repeat, we have many different traditions in Africa. And I honestly, from my heart, do not see myself connecting to this tradition, I must say. But as a spectator, I give it its respect because I know it is done at least with a spiritual and a genuine heart. That's what I'm saying. But I know it's nothing sick. I know it's not X-rated. I know it's not the weird and queer thinking that we as a people operate from. And I know it's not people being misguided because of the ills of society. But again, I come back to the genetic memory bank now. Many ones argue, those who, promote a man having more than one wife. Many ones would argue that, hey, this is why the fellas got to run around. This is a man excuse, I don't agree with this, but this is why fellas got to run around. Why? Because, man, you're trying to tie them down to one woman. Man, in my book, even if a man ain't tied down to no woman, he ain't got to run around. I don't know which tribe you coming from, but in our tribe, we don't run around. Whether we have one woman or no woman, we ain't running around. You see. This is why sometimes when I tell people, man, when your wife is pregnant, brother, I don't know, that's not the time for that. People say, so what you do? What you do? What you talking about? Do about what? What are you talking about? How we become animals, brother? Wow. What do you mean what you do? Imagine that. Wow, that does freak me out, man. What do you mean what you do? You just make me think like, sure. Come on, man. You have to have a little more, control than that. See, you mean to say your wife is pregnant, you cannot humble yourself for 9 months? And it's not even 9 months, put a next 9 on that. Yeah, I mean, come on. Come on, man. Judgment. But you see, this is what I'm saying. We live in Sodom and Gomorrah. So even the holy and the righteous amongst us, we don't understand, the science of self-discipline. Yeah, because when you ask me what you're going to do, I assume that like you're looking for some answers there. So people will tell you, man, when you plant the seed, you got to keep watering it, nothing goes up. If you understood biology alone, you would know that no water can go in the seed where the seed was planted anymore. The canal for the woman is literally blocked up, by a strong mucus. So no more semen can go in there. You ain't watering nothing. And the time for that is past. God didn't create us in a man with such lusting. It is, again, as I said, we live in Sodom and we watch Gomorrah on television, and Babylon is what we listen to as far as music, and all the filthy cities that are mentioned in the Bible. That's what we eat and that's what we drink. So everything that is beautiful in the eyes of the Most High has become corrupted. This is what I'm saying. So a man will clearly tell you, well, no, man, this is why, fellas gotta, play the field, cause, this system is trying to, to kind of narrow you down to just one woman. And again, as I said, our African tradition, we don't narrow down nothing. But it's not like how maybe many of us will be thinking. But if a man could think like that, you're saying that naturally inside of you are coming from a tradition. Listen to my point. You're telling me that naturally inside of you're coming from a tradition where your culture is you're supposed to have more than one wife. All right. Suppose somebody is coming from this tradition that we're talking about, from the Bijago people. Suppose they're coming from this historical background. Suppose their genetical memory bank is filled with the files of this, especially as a woman. In the same way that you can say that a man plays the field because it's naturally inside of him to have more than one spouse, would it be right to say that a woman does the same? Because her genetic memory bank is reminding her of who she is. I'm speaking science here now. We just showed you history, and not just history, but up to today the tradition goes on. You have to remember your great-grandmother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, your great-great-great-grandmother, anything prior to that, man, we might be talking Africa. So it's not too far away. It's not that long ago. And their program, from the educational program to the religious program to the eating program and the pharmaceutical program and the doctor program and the hospital program, their whole program is to beat Mother Africa out of you. That's the program. From lynching to hanging to cotton picking and cane cutting is to beat Mama Africa out of you. But even if they beat out 99%, there still would be that little 1%, and you would be surprised that that little 1%, that little spark, can cause an inferno if you just throw gasoline on it, and that's what they are afraid of. That's why I'm saying that even the tongue, the language, how we use, some of us, when we use that dialect, it's connecting us to our original language in Africa. This is what I'm showing you. Even though we are unaware of it. So our behavior pattern, even the enemy knows that. That is why when they lynched us, and have the horses rip us in two by tying one leg to a horse and the other leg to another horse and beating the horse on the bottom and have the horse running in different directions, tearing the man or woman apart. When they used to do these gruesome acts, they made sure that they brought the community out to watch. This is why up to today, we still have a fear of the descendants of the slave masters. Even if they don't do you nothing, we just have this reverence and this inferiority complex within us because of our genetic memory bank is storing all what we saw. Now you didn't see it. Maybe your father didn't see it, but more than likely your grandfather saw it. It's still within you. This is real science. So I'm putting on the table that there are many aspects of our culture that we may be stifling. Remember, a lot of you literally believe that, that if you're from the Yoruba tribe, you should be practicing Yoruba vibration. That's why a lot of my friends deal with Orisha, because they have, connected themselves back to, the Yoruba people. So they deal with the Yoruba vibration, That's why some people consider themselves Hebrew Israelites, because they connect themselves back with the Hebrew Israelite people. So they take up the Hebrew Israelite tradition. So suppose you connect yourself back to the people in Guinea-Bissau, literally via DNA and bloodline. Whether you don't agree with their tradition, remember we just said DNA and bloodline. So naturally, there is a spiritual essence of that still in you. And I'm sure it's in many of us. Because again, if you take a lion out of the jungle, and all lions don't behave the same. Okay. All tigers don't do the exact same thing. You have the Bengal tiger, Siberian tiger, and some other tiger from some other place, and they have their little different traits. Not because they're all tigers. Okay. So when we rise the argument that, hey, we gotta play the field because, it's not natural, I'm putting it in our head again. That's why I brought up your memory bank, your genetic memory bank, and to show you that there is not a lot of time between us and when the slave ships began their voyage. Just yesterday, in comparison to time, great-great-grandmother. So you see a lot of sisters, they get in relationships, then the relationship match up. And usually it's the woman sometimes tell the man that she needs some space. So where is that coming from? Women like a lot of that I just need some space. And the space, remember, space is like a broad kind of place. Space, just space. Jupiter is in space, the Milky Way is in space, the aliens are in space. Has a lot of space. And when they say they need space, it's like space comes between you and them. Because they need some space. And you see, that's another thing. Outside, I'm coming forward to that, but outside of even this tradition, it is natural at a specific time for a man and a woman to separate from each other. I don't mean like cut their ties, but literally give each other space. Even within the order of King Emmanuel, the whole cycle is set for space between male and female. Yeah, naturally, the woman do have her own house. What are you talking about? Them is the best life to live. I don't know about you. You could say what you want. I don't care how you think. Them is the best life to live. The woman have her own house. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Space. And literally space too. During a specific time, space. But see now, because we have been taken away from the tradition of our true self, there are times when the man and the woman need space from each other, need quote unquote a timeout. You don't have to be upset to get a timeout. But you see, we work so much, from a Babylonian system then that has been injected into us, literally too, that we have to get angry to give space. Okay, I can't take no more. No, listen, I need some space. You see? Instead of sitting down and say, hey, it's time for us to get some space. Yeah, you're right, Yeah, man, a couple of weeks off and I'll go here and you go there and rah, and you'll be with so. Just naturally, Because that's a natural thing. There ain't nothing wrong with that. That's natural. But because we forgot who we are, for us to do that, we got to argue and then give each other space. And then in the next couple of weeks we call and, hey man, baby, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to. It's okay, Paul, I myself, all of that could have been avoided if we just understood who we were. And we so don't understand who we are that sometimes it gets so violent, maybe not necessarily, domestic violence, but it gets so psychologically violent that the space becomes permanent space, and that may not have been necessary neither, but we don't even know what we were doing. This is what I'm talking about. I'm trying to show you it's natural for us to, just like the lion and the tiger and all the animals that you put in a zoo, it is natural for us to kick in to the instinct that we were born with. So sometimes the instinct of the tiger will just kick in, even if it's for 2 seconds. I hope you're not in the cage with it at that time, man. Yeah, the tiger will just, you petting it up, and the lion, you're petting it up, and you're playing with the killer whale. Watch them killer whales. Just at any given moment, the killer whale would snap on you. You have it in a bucket, man. The killer whale is known for swimming from the Atlantic, going all around to the Pacific, however it does it, all the way up to Norway and here and there. The killer whale, and you put the killer whale in a swimming pool and feed it some little sardines and don't expect that one day it will attack you. It's the same thing with us. Not necessarily attack, and we do that too, but our true self, it must kick in. It must kick in. We are natural beings. That's what I'm trying to show you. We work off of a natural biological clock. Hormones, and the different elements that are within us. Yeah. So as natural beings, we act in certain ways. Sometimes we stifle ourselves. That is why I bring up the example of the worm and the caterpillar. Because to the untrained eye, a worm and a caterpillar may look alike, but they're two different animals. The worm, in fact, the caterpillar may have been enslaved by the worm. So the worm taught the caterpillar how to eat worm food. You know what I mean? The worm god. Praise the worm god. So you as a caterpillar now, caterpillars don't eat worm food. Caterpillar eat the green leaves from the spinach and whatever else there is. Worms like to dig in the ground and look for the micro biotic stuff. Caterpillars eat the trees. The caterpillar will grow a silky cocoon and one day sprout wings and fly off. That's the caterpillar. But because the caterpillar has been enslaved by the worm, and it's eating the worm food and watching the worms television and again praising the worms God and going to the worms educational system, somehow he or she believes that they're worms. So now when they get that tingling, there's a tingling you feel, when it's time to, to spin the cocoon. What's that feeling? Don't worry, man, just fight it off. When it's time to sprout the wings, somebody comes and say, no, cut it off. You don't need no wings. That's when we were growing our locks, Oh, cut it off. That's our wings we're growing. Because we're caterpillars. Somebody was teaching us that we're worms. Worms don't naturally grow no wings. Worms don't be growing no wings. Worms don't be, spinning no cocoon. And to show you how much they try to rob the glory of the caterpillar, Do you know the animal they call the silkworm? Do you know it's not a worm? If you go and you look up the word silkworm, it will begin by telling you a silkworm is a caterpillar. But they just call it a worm, just to show you that my theory is not off. You know, that's how they take our glory and give it to somebody else. Woe be unto those that said that they are Jews but are not. You get what I'm saying? So naturally the caterpillar has certain things that is in its future, that is destined to do. But because the caterpillar is under the environment of the worm and they look alike, kind of, to the untrained eye, kind of away from a distance, they're not even looking forward to springing their wings. That's why you have to educate the caterpillar to who the caterpillar really is. And show the caterpillar you ain't no worm. You know what I mean? This is your tradition. This is where you come from. This is your heritage. This is your history. This is your destiny. This is what the Almighty has planned for you. You ain't got this plan for the worm. In fact, if I show you the plan for the worm, you'll be in problems, man. You ever hear them talk about in hell? They have worms. This is what the preacher does teach. They have worms that they eat your flesh in hell. Well, this is where the worms are. You ain't got no caterpillar eating nobody flesh in hell. You see what I'm saying? But the point I'm making here now is that, again, as caterpillars, I have to use that example to bring the point home, man. As caterpillars, again, you have situations where your whole biological makeup, your biological clock, your biological being is nudging you to do certain things. But because, as it relates to your intelligence and your intellect, because it starts in the mind, because you are separated from who you are, the knowledge of who you are, just because of that separation, you do not know how to deal with the frequency that is coming through you. So again, need some space. Nothing wrong with that. That's natural. But it comes out a kind of way. And you get too much space. That is why I said now, we are coming from a tradition. Where you have the woman having several husbands in some of our traditions at the same time. That's why in the Bible they're very serious about when a husband dies, the brother have to take over. You know, they're serious about that. To raise on the name of the family. They're serious about that. You know, who you love and who you feel. This is Hebrew Israelite tradition according to the Bible. So when the man dies, it's not even nobody making no decision. It's the next man come. His younger brother or the next brother come and take the wife. And it's nothing sick in the concept of how it's done. And that's not just the Hebrew tradition. You'd find that tradition in many parts of Africa. Wherein the Hebrew tradition is African too. By the way, you see what I'm saying. So that is why I brought it out in that way. If it's natural, is it something that naturally is within? I mean, there are cases where it's just us being slack and, you know what I mean, and being very promiscuous sexually. We know that. That's, you know what I mean, you go to the club, you go to the disco and you get pregnant, rah, 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 and so on. So that has happened for sure. And that's basically what really goes on. But I'm still looking at the reality of our genetic memory bank accompanying us through our ma'afa, in the amenta, in the underworld, and is now portrayed in our behavior today. That is very real. That is factual. And it can be applied for bad and still can be applied for good. That's why I said even the enemy has learned how to use our library. Again, the Akashic records, the memory bank of our history and our heritage for their advancement today, keeping us scared of the whip, keeping us scared of the clock at work, that we have to make sure we're there to punch in and make sure, we punch out, and when you punch out, you stop getting paid. That's the next thing altogether, but some other time we will deal with that, So look into it, my brothers and sisters, The information is vast and the information is important. This is why we have to continue to study and continue to, examine all things. And it's not about right and wrong. It's not always about right and wrong. It's about unraveling and sifting out things and coming to a good understanding. Because remember, our people, we're psychologically wounded too, psychologically wounded, and we cannot really forget about that part. So yes, do give thanks. Remember, of course, if you have not subscribed to the Shock of the Hour, definitely you gotta subscribe. And remember, of course, to all those who are with us, all our subscribers, remember that we have established the PayPal. We have established the PayPal now. So, of course, you could send your PayPal to our email, which is priestisaac27@gmail.com. And that is just for your information there. And all those who are purchasing, of course, our ebooks and our e-documentaries, you could also pay via PayPal as well. And remember, of course, the 21st and the 23rd day of June, both hikes, talking about the Green Castle Hill. And for all of our international guests that will be coming to Antigua, we're talking about the summer solstice experience, 5 days. Remember, we're going to do the spring, the fall equinox in September, and we're also going to be doing the winter solstice in December. So every solstice, every equinox, if you don't make it this time, you need to gear yourself and get ready for the next time. You need to come and experience for yourself the Stonehenge of the Caribbean. And it's either a 5-day or 7-day session that we're keeping up. Remember, make sure that you definitely book your flight early. This time around, the summer solstice experience, which is just in a few weeks, we're going to be beginning from the 19th, and we're going to be sealing up on the 23rd. 2 dynamic hikes to the Stonehenge of the Caribbean amongst the megaliths. If you don't know about the megaliths, well, what could I tell you? You should get a copy of our book, Anu, Ancient and Modern. That's our book, Anu, Ancient and Modern Revisited, ebook. Just email me, priestisaac27@gmail.com, and you definitely get a copy of that book if you don't know about Anu, Ancient and Modern. And I would even send you the copy of our half-an-hour mini documentary that we did on Green Castle Hill as well, give you a better understanding of what it's all about. That will be very important for you, for anyone who needs that. In fact, the documentary itself, the mini documentary on Green Castle Hill, is something that we do not sell. All you have to do is request it, and we literally send you a copy of it, and you could view it and have a good understanding of the whole phenomena around Green Castle Hill itself. So yeah, we'll be having 2 wonderful hikes. Friday the 21st, the morning hike, and on Sunday the 23rd, the afternoon hike, the sunset hike. This is sunset hike, and the 21st is the sunrise hike as well, the rising of the sun. This is the sun in the most northern part of the ecliptic belt. I'm talking about the summer solstice. And the equinoxes, that's when the sun is basically on the equator, the celestial equator, and shining down on the terrestrial equator. How mystic that is, and that is why there's certain alignments. So like, for example, the 21st day of June, the sun is going to align with the phallic and with the vulva and with the pyramids in the water right here in Antigua. And you got to come and see that for yourself. Of course, you know how to contact me to make your bookings and to get more information. Remember, we have in store for you the island tour. You're going to be also be taken to different heritage and historical sites on the island. Of course, it's talking about sun, sea, and sand, man. That's just reality. Of course, the beach will be there for your benefit as well. The healing properties of the ocean. Of course, vegan food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner will be provided for you. We give you more information on your accommodations, transportation. Everything will be there for you. Of course, we'll be having a wonderful banquet and lecture where you'll be hearing from our historians and our griots. And as I said, we do it every 3 months. So you gotta put yourself in order, family. whether it's now or whether it's September, you gotta put yourself in order, family, and contact us early so you could come up or come down wherever you are to Antigua and enjoy the summer solstice with us the 21st day of June every year, or the 21st day of September every year, or the 21st day of December every year, or the 21st day of March every year. But yeah, make sure you get a copy of The Night of the Black Tie. We're talking about the divinity of Marcus, Messiah Garvey. And as I said again, you could definitely send your payments through PayPal. Alright, if you know your Bible and you do not know your history, the knowledge of your Bible will become a mystery. And remember, it takes some real eyes to realize the real lies that are amongst us. Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari.
Alafia to each and every one. Salamta and blessed love. Honorable Priest Isaac here. It is with great joy that I am happy to announce to you that I have officially released my first ebook, Anno Ancient and Modern Revisited. This is the continuation process of our easy-to-read books. Within the pages of Anno Ancient and Modern Revisited, we take the time to show you the spiritual connection with the island of Antigua and Heliopolis in Kemet in Egypt, with the island of Antigua and the legendary continent of Atlantis. We also highlight Green Castle Hill, also known as Mount Anu, which is known as the Stonehenge of the Caribbean, with the countless of megaliths that align with the movement of the heavens. This is a must-read for all those who are students of the esoteric realms, astronomy, geology, and ancient sites. Of course, to get a copy of your book, all you have to do is to contact us at area code 1268-728-3162. Call, text, or even WhatsApp. Or you can email us at priestisaac27@gmail.com to get a copy of your ebook, Anno Ancient and Modern. It is an easy to read book. It may appear light, but it is extremely heavy. Blessed God.
Subscribe to the Mystic Vibrations Shock of the Hour program today and never miss another episode. The Shock of the Hour is a Radio Anu exclusive program produced every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By now, I am sure that you are aware that all our programs are packed with information, inspiration, mystic vibrations, as well as hot button topics. Every evening we enter into a different dimension, even if it is a part 2 of the previous program, whether it's history or mystery, biology or philosophy, domestic affairs or the locks of your hair. The mystic vibration is sure to bring something new and interesting to the table every evening. So never miss another episode again. Subscribe to the Shock of the Hour now. And don't forget your key Swahili word of the day and your daily scientific fact. So, to subscribe, give us an email, priestisaac27@gmail.com, or call or WhatsApp us today. Area code 1268-728-3162. The Shock of the Hour. Never miss another program. And a special note to all our new subscribers. All our new subscribers will receive a special copy of the DVD documentary, full length, The Night of the Black Tiger, The Divinity of Marcus Messiah.